It's an absolutely wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has full-on admitted that their ban philosophy is a failure, and the modern format is on fire as a result of that. And on the other side of the coin, the amazing side, they've just announced 2 Monty Python secret layers that are the best thing ever.
Magic.
I am a wizard!
History.
I'm an old wizard!
The Magic Historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends! I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a very bipolar edition of Mega Magic News. We've got the worst news and the best news. So we're going to take the Monty Python goodness and we're going to save that for after we talk about the ban nonsense concept that is Wizards of the Coast's current philosophy when it comes to handling bannings. Wizards of the Coast has straight up admitted they have failed with their current process and they are going to be retooling it, which is absolutely necessary. Bans are incredibly important to maintain the health of formats, and Wizards of the Coast recently seems to have adopted a philosophy that said, don't ban anything at any cost, because bannings are why people leave the game. But no. Having horrific, unplayable formats are a bigger reason people leave the game. If you ban too willy-nilly, yes, it is a problem. But if you just go, we're not doing any bans at all, especially not emergency bans, because those show we don't have a firm hand on the wheel, and there are other reasons they don't want to do emergency bans as well. So, you may have noticed that Wizards of the Coast has put us in a ridiculous situation where they say, you know, we really only want to do bans like once a year, but then they put that once a year banning like 3 weeks before rotation is going to happen. And then when banning comes around, lo and behold, they go, okay, we're not actually going to ban anything because rotation is coming. And if we banned stuff, we wouldn't know how the rotation is going to affect everything. So we're just going to leave it as it is. That's what you're going to do every year then, because rotation is always going to be coming based on that concept. Now that is for standard, and standard is its own complete dumpster fire where Wizards went, yo, let's stretch it out to be in 3 years instead of 2 years, but we'll only do bannings once a year. But wait, we're going to give ourselves a 3-week window after a set comes out to go ahead and do bannings. And then we're just not going to take advantage of it. So, Nadu specifically is completely obliterating Modern, right? There is no arguing that fact. Nadu literally dominated the recent Pro Tour. You had the top 4 slots all being Nadu decks. To drive this point home, this is the Pro Tour. This is where all the best Magic players in the world convene, right? So you have the best players playing Nadu, but you also have the best minds in Magic figuring out ways to counter it, to take it down. And guess what? Nada. Because Nadu is way too strong. And the craziest thing to me is I don't even think Wizards of the Coast realized how strong the card is. It would have been at Mythic level, because we all know Wizards of the Coast likes to extract as much money as humanly possible. So if they knew Nadu was going to be as broken as it was, they would have definitely made it a Mythic. This is incidental. This is a random rare that doesn't even have a crazy high price value that is overshadowing everything in the new Modern Horizons set, right? So most likely, Nadu was designed just as a pushed for commander, but not pushed for modern format kind of, hey, here you go, commander players, play with this. But instead, it's completely ruined Modern. And Wizards of the Coast could step up and go, yo, we're banning Nadu. But nope, they don't want to do an emergency ban, even though we're literally starting the RCQ, like the regional qualifiers to get up onto the champion levels, to the road to the Pro Tour. That's what we're dealing with. And Wizards is like, you know what, we'll just let Nadu keep setting it on fire. We're not doing a ban until we said we would on August 26th, and even then, there's a part of me that thinks they're going to go the Hogak route. This isn't the first time Modern Horizons has kicked in the door and caused a whole bunch of problems. Hogak came out and Wizards was like, Hogak's not the problem, bro. I mean, sure, the deck's a problem, but we don't think it's Hogak. We're going to ban around it by banning cards that we're not currently selling. So here's your bans. And then they had to come back like 2 months later and be like, so it turns out that Hogak's actually a problem. It's such a wild concept. It's like Wizards is hosting a party, and there's some dude named Doug, and Doug is smashing the table, stealing people's wallets. He's just going to town on the party, ruining it for everybody. And then Wizards looks at it and goes, okay, everybody's talking about Doug. Doug's a big problem, but you know what? We always see Doug hanging out with Sally, so let's kick Sally out of the party. That'll calm Doug down. What are you talking about? He's still gonna be flipping over punch bowls and smashing windows and stuff, bro. Doug is still here. Doug is still a problem. So I wouldn't be surprised if Wizards just goes, we don't gotta ban Nadu, right? We can just ban like Shuko or something else. Like Nadu, not only is it dominating the format, but on top of that, it is the most uninteractive, boring nonsense ever, where you just sit there while the player playing card after card after card for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of time, just doing thing after thing after thing after thing after thing after thing after thing until they can win or just not win. It is the closest to Magic Solitaire there has ever been. And it's literally dominating the format, but Wizards like, well, you know, we're selling Modern Horizons 3 now, and it's a big thing, and also it's really important that we don't do emergency bans because we don't want people taking the easy early exit of just quitting Magic over a ban. Meanwhile, the format's absolutely on fire. All the events that are going to go off in the next number of weeks are absolutely going to be dominated by this garbage, which has decreased the amount of people signing up for tons of events. You can find event organizers lamenting about the damage this is doing. Wizards of the Coast has gotten so insane chasing Commander and also just going, we're going to force rotation into Modern, that there is no actual care or concern for the longevity of anything. It's all just like, whatever, who cares? Did we sell the newest set? Did we make these quarterly profits? Is that another reason they don't want to have any kind of emergency bans? It's like, well, we don't want anything to affect the sales for a particular quarter. So we're left in this total quagmire where the formats essentially become play this insanely boring busted deck or just lose. You stand no chance. But then you also have the, well, Wizards is saying they're going to do some kind of banning on the 26th, and they're probably going to nuke the deck from orbit, which means why would I spend any money getting all the pieces for this deck, especially since it requires random things from all over the place that without Nadu, the deck just falls apart. This isn't one of those situations where they can go, well, you know what? If you get rid of Nadu, you can just slot in this other thing and it makes the deck work. No, Nadu is an insane advantage engine that should have been incredibly obvious, but Wizards doesn't playtest anymore. There's no balancing. They only check to make sure the cards are broken enough. They do not check to see if it's going to ruin everything. It's just like, yo, is this broken enough that people will buy it? Like, I totally believe that Nadu was an afterthought, not even on their radar, but if they had playtesters actually playing this stuff, they would have had people going, yo, this is insane. But there's also the possibility that they did play test it and people said, yo, this is insane, and they went ahead with it anyways. Look what happened with Grief. They were literally told by their legacy expert, yo, ban Grief, and they just went, nuh-uh. We're doing it as a special guest in Modern Horizons 3, and we don't want to impact the sale, so Grief isn't a problem. It's mind-blowing. It's like this singular focus on Commander being the main format of Magic has made them go, we have no responsibility for anything anymore. We don't have to manage formats. We don't have to balance the formats. We don't have to ban effectively. Emergency bans aren't a thing. We don't have to play test our cards. We have no responsibility as the maker of this game, but we want you to pay these absurd prices. These morons don't realize that they're strangling the golden goose. People aren't going to keep playing Modern if you make it into a nightmare situation where every time Modern Horizons comes out, a brand new Modern Horizons has showed up and it's going to completely ruin the format because the power creep in Magic has reached absurd levels where every set now has the most bonkers, dumb nonsense because that's the only way. It's like, okay, forget standard. How is standard supposed to thrive when these sets are like, well, we also want cards that are going to affect modern. We definitely want a bunch of stuff for commander. So the formats are an afterthought, and they're just going, well, you know, we do need to change our banning schedule and our philosophy. It needs a huge update. They need to be willing to actually axe the cards that are a genuine problem. This Nadu nonsense would have never happened back in the day, right? The whole reticence to like issue emergency bans, I would get it if they were properly guarding the formats and going, well, we tested all this stuff and this slipped through the cracks, instead of, we tested nothing. You guys are our play testers, and we also refuse to acknowledge the results of the play testing. The Pro Tour being dominated by Nadu to that level should have basically resulted in an instantaneous emergency ban where Wizards went, we messed up. And the craziest thing is, Nadu's not like the big pinnacle card. We're not saying like Nadu is the one ring like it was for Lord of the Rings, and if we ban this, then it's really going to impact the ability to sell the sets. Nadu isn't a hugely expensive chase card. And again, because it is a random rare that looks like they were aiming at Commander, they didn't even know. They didn't even make it mythic. It absolutely blows my mind how ignorant and careless they can be, and this is absolutely unacceptable. So I'm waiting to see. I wait with bated breath to see this ban announcement and whether they have the stones to actually ban the problem, or if they're gonna do a deedly ban over there, a deedly ban over there, and then we're right back here having the same conversation. Because I promise you, if they only ban a couple of outward cards that aren't Nadu, they're just going to get replaced. They're going to get replaced with other things because Nadu's shell, his concept, is too powerful to ignore. The card advantage inherent in it is insane. It triggers twice for every one of your creatures. These crackheads are out of their minds, right? So that covers the bad news side of things. Now, let's get into the mega hype side of things. Wizards of the Coast has just announced 2 Monty Python and the Holy Grail secret layers, and I am over the moon. I absolutely love them, and what we're gonna do is go card by card through each one. Let's do it. We're going to start out with Volume 1 of the Monty Python and the Holy Grail Secret Lair. I'll let you know when we've moved into the cards from Volume 2. And I love both of these secret layers. This right here, Tim the Enchanter, gets me super, super excited. This is an awesome character from the movie and a fun part of Magic's history. 1 blue and 2 for a 1/1 human wizard. Tap him, he deals 1 damage to any target. Now, if you started playing Magic all the way back in the early days, Prodigal Sorcerer was actually a card people would use. By today's standards, this isn't nearly strong enough to move the needle, but that is irrelevant. Prodigal Sorcerer was originally called Tim, and tapping him to do a damage to a target was called Timming, based specifically on Tim the Enchanter from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And this character is incredibly memorable. If you've never seen the movie, you are missing out. His performance is so over the top. He's literally whipping fireballs everywhere. He'll basically stop mid-sentence to turn around and just whip more fireballs around. It is so much fun. And the fact that his name is Tim, look at him. He's this crazy old wizard up in the mountains. He's got this crazy ram's horn kind of headpiece, right? And his staff that he blasts magic out of. So he's literally just obliterating mountaintops when our heroes find him. And he's answering their questions, but punctuating it with random blasts of fire from his staff, other pyrotechnic displays. At one point, there's even some fireworks. It's so much fun. And when they ask him who he is, there are some who call me Tim. And it's just such a hilarious name. You're expecting some wild, crazy, powerful magician name, especially since we're dealing with the whole like Holy Grail concept, King Arthur, all that. So you'd be like, what is this? Is he Merlin? Nope, he's just called Tim. To finally have a prodigal sorcerer that is actually Tim the Enchanter is so incredibly exciting. And the artwork looks great. I rewatched the movie last night out of hype over this actual secret lair, and I was so happy when they got to the Tim part. Actually, I was so happy during the whole movie. It's so much fun. Now, let's look at the next card. We've got Bring Out Your Dead! 1 black and 2 for Buried Alive. It's a sorcery that says search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, then shuffle. And the flavor text says, I'm getting better. No, you're not. You'll be stone dead in a moment. So this is where the guy who's standing there with the triangle and the stick, he walks through the town going, bong, bring out your dead. They got a dead cart where they're just pulling up all the people who have been taken out by plague or other parts of terrible medieval living. So the guy here is bringing like his grandfather or his father out over his shoulder going, I've got somebody for your cart. And the guy's like, I can't take that. I can't take a living person. It's against regulation. And he's like, come on, he'll be dead soon. And then the whole time the grandpa on the back is just going, I want to go for a walk. I'm okay. And then by the end of it, you're going, I feel happy. I feel happy. And then he's like, the guy who's holding him is, isn't there something you can do? So Buddy with the stick goes and bludgeons him. And then they just throw him on the cart and cart him off. It's absolutely hilarious. And it works perfectly with the concept of this card because by going through your library for your creatures and putting them into the graveyard, you're essentially taking what would be live creatures and ending them yourself. And that's what happens here. You have a perfectly alive guy. Boonk! He's done. He's dead. Like, that's so great. The flavor on this is so much fun. After that, we've got Tis But a Scratch. Man, John Cleese plays some of the most fun characters in this movie. And he plays the Dread Black Knight, who you see straight up beat down this other knight in a vicious fashion, right? So King Arthur tries to get him to join him, and he's like, nah, I'm not joining you. Nobody gets to cross this bridge that I guard. So they get into a big old fight, and King Arthur hacks off his arm. And this is that moment in the movie where he's like, all right, I just won the fight. After he hacks his arm off, okay, I win. I'll be on my way. And then the Black Knight goes, tis but a scratch. And then he's like, a scratch? Your arm's off, right? Like, that's the flavor text. And then he proceeds to hack the other arm off. And he's just like, I have won the battle, right? And so he bows down to give thanks. And he's like praying, oh, thank you for this victory. But the Black Knight hasn't given up. He comes and kicks him over with his leg and keeps trying to boot him. It ends up with the Black Knight with no arms, no legs, and he's still there yelling, come back, you cowards. We'll call it a tie. Come back and fight me like a man. It's such a memorable an epic scene. And they literally put it on the card Dismember, which is perfect because that's what he literally gets dismembered. Target creature gets -5/-5 till end of turn. It's so great. He keeps insisting he can fight. And the king's eventually like, you're a loony. Like, it's I love it. I love it. I love these secret layers so much. Then we've got, we want a shrubbery. These are the knights who say nee. And that is, it's just a sound that everybody cowers away from like it's harming them. It's such a ridiculous concept where they're basically like, you're going to go and get us a shrubbery or we will say nee at you. And then they're just like, nee. And they're cowering down like it's injuring them. And then they end up going and looking for a shrubbery. And when they can't find it, they're literally kneeing old ladies. Not with their knees, but with the word knee. They're going, knee. It's so absurd. You have to see it to fully appreciate it. But this is the moment where they go, okay, how do we appease you great knights who say knee? And they say, we want a shrubbery. They don't even know what a shrubbery is. So they have to go and find one, and they're told one that looks nice and not too expensive. It's so funny. They do end up getting him a shrubbery. And then the knights who say need demand, they change their name, and then they go, we demand a second shrubbery. And also, when you're done that, you must cut down the largest tree in the forest with a herring. And you can literally see him holding a little herring, and you can see King Arthur like this, because at that point he goes, no, we're not doing any of this, right? And it just evolves from there. So this is on the card 3 visits, a green and a 1. Search your library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. It does happen in a forest. They are looking for a shrubbery, which could be you going to get a forest. So it works from a flavor perspective. Again, really, really love these cards. After that, we've got an African Swallow, a Birds of Paradise. 1 green for the classic 0/1 flyer that taps to add a mana of any one color. So, when it comes down to this, at the very beginning of the movie, King Arthur comes riding up, and he's got his squires coming behind him, and he's got 2 coconuts, and he's clapping them together to make the horse sound. Like that, with the coconut halves, right? So they come up to a castle, and the guy who's manning the parapets is like, how did you get a coconut? Coconuts aren't in this part of the world. And then King Arthur basically just says, could have been brought here by migratory birds. And so then they start talking. He's like, wait, a swallow could... A swallow? You think a swallow could be carrying a coconut here? And it's like he could grip the husk with his talons. And then the flavor text says, it's not a question of where he grips it, right? So this is, and they're talking about European swallows, right? And then another guard comes in and goes, well, an African swallow could do it, right? And then they start talking, well, African swallows aren't migratory. It's an epic moment. Showing a swallow flying here with a coconut with the castle in the background, right? Oh, it's so awesome. But this is a double-sided Birds of Paradise. You don't just get an African swallow, you also get a European swallow. So if you look at the flavor text on the first one, it says, it's not a question of where he grips it. The flavor text on this one says, it's a simple question of weight ratios. I love it. I absolutely love the pure absurdity of this movie, and them having both of the swallows represented as Birds of Paradise is so great, because Birds of Paradise is a really fun card, and you can choose which side you want to use. I love it so much. So these cards we've looked at so far are the first. This is volume 1. Now we're going to switch over into volume 2. First thing we've got is the Bridge of Death, who has this crazy old man who will ask you 3 questions. And if you don't answer them correctly, then you get thrown into the Gorge of Peril, where you will just suffer and die. So he asks pretty banal questions mostly. He asks the first guy, he's like, what is your name? What is your quest? What is your favorite color? Right? And so then he just gets across no problem. First guy answers the questions like it's nothing. Second guy comes along, he asks him, what is your name? And he's like, what is your quest? And then the third question is, what is the capital of something like Assyria? And the guy's like, I don't know that. And then he just gets whipped, like the magic of basically the Gorge of Peril grabs him and throws him into his doom. And then a third guy comes up, asks him the same question, name, quest, and then asks him his favorite color. But the guy accidentally says the favorite color that the first guy said instead of his favorite color, and he ends up getting thrown off the bridge. And then when King Arthur steps up, the bridge man goes, what is like the wing speed of an unladen swallow? And then because of the stuff at the beginning with the African and European, King Arthur goes, African or European? And the bridge man goes, what? I don't know. And then the gorge grabs him and whips him in. And it's so much fun. And the idea that they made this door to nothingness feels like a good choice too, because things go wrong, you get ended by it. So it's 5 to put out, comes into the battlefield tapped, pay 2 of every color, sacrifice the Bridge of Death, target player loses the game. It works great flavorfully, right? And the bridge is totally rickety. When they were walking across it in the movie, I'm like, I feel like they might actually genuinely fall in. Man, do I love this movie. Next up, we've got Sir Bedivere's Scales. This is Ashnod's Altar, right? So it's a 3-mana artifact, sack a creature, add 2 mana. The flavor text says, so logically, if she weighs the same as a duck, she's made of wood, and therefore a witch. The townfolk bring this lady to him that they insist is a witch, but they've put like a weird nose and hat on her going, she's a witch. She turned me into a newt. Everyone looks at him. He's like, Well, I got better. And then he's like, no, we have to prove that she is a witch. And it's like, okay, like, why do witches burn? And it's like, because they're made of wood. And then it's like, wood floats in water, right? So do ducks. So therefore, if she has the exact same weight as a duck, then she's a witch. And they take her to his scales, which are incredibly faulty. Like, he's supposed to be a man of science, and he's trying to lead them into thinking that, you know, she's got to weigh the same as a duck. But none of the peons there can understand. It takes King Arthur saying it to him, a duck! He says it so boldly. And then Bedivere goes, who are you who knows so much about the ways of science? It turns out the lady and the duck weigh the same because his scales are garbage, and they just take her off to be burned, which is hilarious. It's literally, this is something that lets you sack creatures. This isn't about scales. This is about creatures getting taken out. I loved this moment in the movie, just the scientific, ridiculous concepts. So this is a really fun choice. Then we've got Castle of Arg. So they find this inscription written in Aramaic deep in this cave that they were sent to. And it's supposed to tell them the location of the Holy Grail. And so it's just got this bold proclamation saying, you will find the Grail at the castle. And then they're like, wait, did he write this as his life was ending? What's even going on here? But it turns out that's the name of the castle, right? So this is Dark Depths. This isn't actually them at the castle. This is them like in an underground tunnel. So it is a little bit strange that they've chosen to show it this way, but it does tie together with the other card, the Black Beast of Arg. You can see him in the shadows there. You see the horns coming up? That's the beast that they end up having to flee from. So this is a reskinned Dark Depths. It comes in with 10 counters on it. Pay 3 to remove a counter from it, and when it has no counters on it left, you sack it. If you do, you create Merit Lage, a 2020 black avatar creature token with flying and indestructible. I do have a little bit of a quibble with the way that, like, you see how the card's called Castle of Arg, and down here it says Castle of Arg? Well, it shouldn't say Merit Lage token as far as I'm concerned, because they reskinned the token that this makes as well into the beast. So it should use the beast's name. I think that's the wrong choice for the way that they've set this up. That's pretty much the only thing I can say negative about these secret layers. Although I suppose if you want to view them from purely a value perspective, they're not like really that banger, but I don't care because I love the flavor on these so much. And secret layers don't have to be about monetary value. They can just deliver an awesome experience, which is what this is doing, right? So this is pretty sweet. Obviously, normally when you play a card like this, you're going to have other ways to remove the counters from it so that you can instantly get your 20/20. So this is them in the cave right before the beast appears. And we have the beast included as well. It is the Black Beast of Arg! And it is Merit Lage, right? But I mean, they should have called it the whole Black Beast on the other card. You can see in the artwork the crazy many-eyed beast. In the movie, this part is actually done in an animated style. It has flying and indestructible. This beast doesn't actually have flying. It's just a gigantic honk boy that keeps running along. The flavor text says, run away, which is a repeating theme in the movie. And at the front, they've got Brave Sir Robin, who is a gigantic coward. I love Brave Sir Robin. That's a hilarious concept. So I love this overall. This is just fantastic. You see them all taking off in the actual movie because this beast is animated. What happens is the animator has a heart attack and keels over, and that's why there's no more animation. It's the only reason they escape. The movie, again, is absolutely nutty. If you've never seen it, you totally need to check it out. I really, really, really like this. These are now officially my favorite secret layers of all time. All right, so that wraps up everything in volume 2 of the Monty Python secret layers. I very much wish to own these. They are so very, very cool. Thanks for coming by and hanging out. You can share your thoughts on the banning stuff or this Monty Python stuff down in the comments. That's up to you. Big shout out to my patrons. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. I will be doing a live stream tonight over on my live stream channel, Hatcher Streams. So feel free to come by and hang out if you want to. I'll see you there. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.